Hello everybody, we've made it to the last episode of Season 1 of B-Movie Enema, and I'm Jeff Arbuckle, and with me as always is the greatest, most beautiful, and sweetest companion a B-movie proctologist could ask for, Nurse Disembody.
Hello everyone.
So, as I mentioned last week, we began Season 1 with Mario Gariazzo, we end Season 1 with Mario Gariazzo. Our first episode, which was his Eyes Behind the Stars, wasn't more of an original film. It was an alien mystery that later involved government cover-ups, murder, a guy beating the shit out of his lady assistant, and all sorts of other stuff. This time, though, we've got ourselves a little bit more of a good old-fashioned Italian ripoff. Now, in 1973, a little movie came out here in the States, and it's one that you probably have heard of. It was called The Exorcist. The movie sent shockwaves throughout the world. Not only did makeup effects by the great Dick Smith influence makeup and special effects people for decades after, but it also taught the world that horror could be scary again. Like really scary. Like really fucking scary. Like no shit, this is one of the only movies that I still do not want to watch at night. After seeing this movie about a dozen times in my life, it still pretty much bothers me. I have a difficulty getting over the face of Linda Blair in her possessed girl makeup. If I'm particularly rattled at night, I sometimes get legitimately scared that I'll go into the bathroom, flip on the light, and see her face kind of staring back at me from behind me in the mirror. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But trust me, I wish it was Exorcist 2 Linda Blair, but no. That movie sucks and leaves a different feeling in the pit of my stomach. No, it's her visage from the first that I hate to see without warning or in the pitch black of night.
Not to mention, she's also so cute and innocent and normal at the beginning of the movie, and she slowly turns into a demonic creature.
You got that right, nurse. And what's more about Dick Smith's great makeup is what he did to Max von Sydow. Now, the twice Oscar-nominated actor died in March of 2020 at the age of 90, and this means that he was somewhere around my age when he was making The Exorcist. And Smith made him to look so believably older that when he eventually got to the age he was portraying in the movie some 25 or 30 years later, I'll be damned if you think that he somehow time traveled back to 1972 in order to get the part as Father Merrin. Now, how Smith actually managed to perfectly predict how the guy would look when he grew older just amazes me. Now, additionally at times, The Exorcist comes across as almost documentary in style too. The long opening of Max von Sydow's Father Merrin at the archaeology dig in Iran and confronting the idol of Pazuzu, which we don't know is the thing possessing Blair's Reagan until the second movie, but when Reagan is taken to the doctors to try to figure out what's wrong with her, the sequence of her getting the battery of diagnostic tests and an angiography is hard to watch, and director William Friedkin even claimed that his filming of an actual procedure of the angiography on Blair was used in training of doctors for years to come. I mean, man, there's just all sorts of stuff that we could talk about in terms of this incredibly popular and important film. From the performances, the near textbook ideology and Catholic dogma, to supposed curses on the film, and the reaction audiences had. We could spend a couple of hours just talking about that.
I kind of wish we would.
Me too. Because we can't do that. Instead, we have to watch this movie. The Eerie Midnight Horror Show, also known as Enter the Devil, also known as La Sessa, also known as The Sexorcist, also known as The Devil Obsession. Now, probably outside of its Italian name, La Sessa, the most common title we'll see over here is The Eerie Midnight Horror Show. So, let's talk about that. This movie received that title after the immense popularity of the British-American movie, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, the Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of makes sense, particularly since it comes from the stage play called The Rocky Horror Show. That movie was playing off of the love of late-night horror movie shows and double features at theaters and drive-ins and what have you. But Eerie Midnight Horror Show? That's a title that makes no sense for a movie that it was applied to. The Italian title translates to The Possess. That makes sense. The Sexorcist actually makes sense. The Devil Obsession makes sense. Enter the Devil makes sense, but I think that is also a title ripping off another popular movie that was released the year before this movie.
For Enter the Dragon?
Yep. There were lots of shit entering here and there and everywhere in the mid-70s. The devil apparently wanted in on a piece of that action too. So anyway, we need to really kind of get this thing started. Now, we're going to get into the Eerie Midnight Horror Show and meet art student Danila. And she's checking out some carvings of the crucifixion, and soon shit gets kind of nutty. But I'll see you here after the first segment. Nice. Well, I think the only thing the beginning of this movie somehow forgot to include was a rousing rendition of early morning single feature movie time by a pair of butt cheeks. But it didn't forget to include titties in the credits, so I guess that's a bonus. Alright, so we met Danila, played by Stella Carnacina. She is an art student, but really kind of comes off as almost a full-fledged expert, as it is. And she goes to a deconsecrated church. Now, right out of the gate, that already sounds pretty spooky, right? I'm not a religious man, never was, but I will say that a holy place that is no longer holy or was thrown out of holiness or whatever sounds like an excellent place to start any movie. But anyway, apparently this place got into some shenanigans and decided to go all wild with pleasure and what have you. Danila acquires one of the crucifixes, and not only does the guy on the cross not look like oh holy Jeebus himself, but he looks like a guy that literally living and is just covered in makeup. It's a great carving. And so Danila then goes to a raging Kager at her parents' place and accidentally walks in on her mom and her lover going to serious Bonesville, with him whipping her with thorny stems of roses and probably French ticklers and whatnot. But that's maybe the first weirdest thing this movie does. And I think this movie is trying to connect dots between the sacred and the profane, and I think that makes for an interesting dichotomy and idea, at least when it comes to this sort of stuff. But we have a church in which the monks or the members or whatever started getting in on orgies, which is obvs not cool with the church. You have a cheating wife who has a somewhat cruel lover who also wants to deconsecrate the lady's daughter. It's all that struggle with the higher being says that you should not do a thing, and then you fighting against your own nature to get down with that get down. So, hey, nurse, you wanted to say something about this part of the movie, right?
Yeah. The scene in which the guy comes breaking free from the sculpture that she acquired was done really well. It's very creepy.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Danila is just kind of hanging out and painting, and it looks like the guy in the painting is like, hey, what's going on there behind you there? And then she first sees the carving is missing, and then the guy attacks her, just rips off her dress like it's a tearaway dress or something, and then all of a sudden she's painting again, and it seems like a dream or something. It's kind of a cool scene, but clearly scared by what she thinks she experienced, she goes to see her boyfriend, and now maybe it's in the translation or something, but maybe it's a Euro thing, but he's like, I love you, darling. And she's like, well, okay, well, let's move in together so I don't go crazy. And he's like, fine, whatever, you crazy bitch. It's a tad weird. But anyway, our lead actress playing Danila, like I said, is Stella Carnacina, and I think they do a great job finding a girl who is both sexy but still intelligent and diligent looking, and also cute in a way that you can kind of draw, you can be drawn into her a little bit. And they do a very good job of twisting her in the movie as well. So what you see now is going to become particularly scary and gross in a little bit. But Carnacina is a bit of a sex symbol, having appeared in Italian Playboy and other gentleman mags. But I mean, look, she can take a good picture. Now, going through her somewhat brief filmography, she wasn't really in a whole lot that I can actually recognize. She was in a movie called No Way Out, which I do recognize, but from the Kevin Costner movie in the 80s, not the Italian one from the 70s. She was in a movie called Sex for Sale, and I think that's a comedy about a guy who's a bit of a loser who figures out a way to become sort of a healer, I guess, in a mountain village. And I said I think it is a comedy, but I really don't know. It's so hard to tell with Italian movies, to be honest with you. But and whatever. But
They do have a very confusing world of cinema.
now, she was recently, and by recently I mean in 2020, seen in a documentary called Italy Possessed, A Brief History of Italian Exorcist Ripoffs. And I really do think that that's something that we need to track down, Nurse, and really kind of check that out.
Agreed.
So now, Nurse, can you guess which one of the movies in Carnacina's filmography is most definitely my favorite title?
Oh, I can guess.
Oh yeah, of course it's going to be the movie called White Pop Jesus. The plot summary alone has me sold. It's about Disco Jesus taking down the mob. Now, are you fucking kidding me with that? I mean, I need to see this movie stat. So, considering that is on YouTube, and at some point Italy Possessed will have to become available at some point, Nurse, I think we've got some movie nights planned here for us. So anyway, let's get back into the Eerie Midnight Horror Show and the escalation of Daniela's problem with the sexy man on the cross. So I mentioned how I'm kind of closing a loop by bringing in Mario Gariazzo to not just start the series off, but also finish the first season, right? Well, this isn't actually the only loop I'm closing. The Eerie Midnight Horror Show actually holds the distinction of being the very first B-Movie Enema article I ever wrote. So allow me to give you a little bit of a history of the site. Some, 10 or 11 years ago, I had this idea to do an online movie hosting show with some friends. And unfortunately, that didn't really pan out. But I had like 5 or 6 of these 50 movie packs that I got at Target for something like, $10 each. Well, what to do with these packs? Well, I eventually figured out that in the fall of 2014 that I wanted to start a blog. I had these movies. I did watch some of them for the show that I wanted to do. So I had some appreciation for the B-movie stuff. So I thought, you know what? Let's create a blog that would eventually become B-Movie Enema, and I'd start talking about these movies and start covering them, just in text form. So I came busting out of the gate with 6 articles, and all 6 movies I've since covered in this first season of this show. So I started with the Eerie Midnight Horror Show, and then did The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, then My Mom's a Werewolf, followed by Messiah of Evil, then Oasis of the Zombies, and finally The Teacher. And after the release of The Teacher, I had to step away from writing. However, what I would later realize is that I never should have stepped away and stopped, because what I was writing turned out to be incredibly therapeutic. I've always been somewhat odd. I often dealt with that by way of having a little bit of a creative streak in me, I guess. It's a great way to express oneself, even if it's silly or wildly different than how you present yourself in the real world. And I felt that if the real world would eventually create an asylum in my mind, then B-Movie Enema would be my therapists. And allowing myself to give into my more artistic side, that is my id, I'd find a peace that I never had before. And it's kind of like these possessed church folk, right? If I give myself over to what felt right and good, and well, you'd find the freedom, I guess. However, I didn't know that in November of 2014, when B-Movie Enema went on an indefinite hiatus, that it would be gone for a long time. And I wouldn't really learn this for almost a year and a half. This realization came after I discovered the Roku channel Bizarre TV. Now, I've talked about it on here before, and Jesus Christ, do I mention it a lot on the blog itself. But it really kind of opened my eyes to some new movies that I hadn't seen before or had only heard about. And it was something that I would turn on and watch all day and all night, even allowing it to run while I slept. And that's when, on some early Saturday morning in March of 2016, I woke up to the Mexican movie The Brainiac playing on Bizarre TV. And there was something about this black and white creature feature that ignited something that had been missing for some time. And that very day, I found the movie on YouTube and wrote a brand new B-Movie article for the first time in 16 months. After that, I went on a torrid pace of 94 consecutive articles until the end of November 2017. And I took a few months off so I could help launch a second concurrent project, the podcast called Film Seizure. And by the way, go over to www.filmseizure.com and check it out. We do some pretty good work over there, if I do say so myself. But when that brief hiatus ended, I've not stopped since. To this day, you can go to bmovieenema.com every Friday and get a new article to read. I maybe evolved since then and started this show to boot, but I cannot tell you how much that blog and this show really means to me. And I hope you enjoy these articles and episodes as much as I do making them. But by the way, how I feel about the blog and these shows kind of reminds me a little of something I once saw John Lennon say to a guy in the documentary Imagine. Someone who was possibly homeless, but definitely a fan, kind of moseyed on up to Lennon's home where he recorded the Imagine album. And he just wanted to tell Lennon how much his music meant to him and how it spoke to him. Now, Lennon wasn't rude about it, but he did say that he doesn't do what he does for the fans or anyone other than himself. Maybe Yoko, he said. Maybe if he was singing a love song, he was thinking about Yoko. Now, he's certainly glad that others like what he does and is thankful for that. But he's doing this for himself, and he's singing and writing for himself. Now, I don't know if that's what the young man wanted to hear, but Lennon spoke truth to him. And he speaks the truth of people who do things and put themselves out there like that. First and foremost, you are expressing yourself for yourself. If others enjoy that, it's beautiful. But art, and by the way, I don't think any of this is necessarily art, by the way. I mean, look, this is just my fucking living room back here. But it starts with the person doing the thing for themselves. Sometimes it's honorable. Sometimes it's selfish. But it usually starts from the person doing the thing for themselves. And if people catch on, that's great. Now, sorry to get deep on you here, but that's just me saying to those who have been with me either throughout the blog or through the series, thanks. Thanks for coming along with me with these goofy and crazy things that I do. I do it for me, but I hope others can have some fun too. And even more importantly, if you need to let something out, whether it's through artistically drawing something, writing something, whatever it is, do it. There's nothing holding you back from having your own YouTube channel or blog or podcast or anything. Find what you need to express yourself in a way that you find that peace that you've been looking for. And whatever you do, though, make sure that you speak your truth. So let's get into the conclusion of the Eerie Midnight Horror Show. Danila is horny as all get out, even going so far as to try to get sexual release from her own father. Ew. But we're going to get to the inevitable priest versus possessed girl moment that we're all here for. And we're going to see Danila start looking really scary and kind of gross very soon. So I'll see you here after the movie. All right, so Danila is saved from the sex demon or whatever it is that's possessing her, and things, I guess, are okay. I mean, I guess that priest died, and it's not good for him, but whatever. We do get a batshit conclusion, which is to be expected in most of these Italian flicks, and certainly in any movies that are ripoffs. Like, how do you stand apart from the other ripoffs or the things that you're ripping off? Well, you go over the top. And maybe you try to get the priest laid or see if he'll succumb to the idea of a pretty girl giving him head. Have him flagellate himself as he prepares for a second battle. Sure. Have Danila whip the exorcist man with chains and foam at the mouth. That should do it. All right. So, damn, I mean, we're kind of at the end here, nurse.
Yeah, I am kind of sad that we don't have a new episode next week.
I know. I mean, maybe should I give the folks a little bit of a teaser for the future?
That's an excellent idea.
Okay, so season 1, that sun may be setting, but it will rise again for season 2. The great thing about not being on TV and just doing whatever the holy fuck you want is that you don't have to worry about anyone canceling you, unless, I mean, that supposed mob that's kind of always after you, like the Frankenstein monster or whatever, with torches and stuff, I guess they could cancel you, I suppose. Or so I've heard, but I digress. That means that I renewed my ask for season 2, even before I started filming season 1. Isn't that great? I've already ordered up 16 episodes for season 2, and much like this season, it's not going to be the normal bullshit that you see others doing. I'm not trying to get on regular TV stations or anything like that. I'm on B-Movie-Enema.com and OtherWorlds TV, goddammit, so back off, jerks. Season 2 starts on Saturday, September 11th, 2021, and will run through Christmas Day. And we'll be able to take advantage of Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and so how's about that? We'll have Christmas slashers, chicken men, and devil cults doing Halloween things. It'll be a good time. Now, are you looking forward to that, Nurse?
Of course.
So, how about one more go around with the whole website info, Nurse? I mean, like, that should hopefully tide everyone over in the in-between seasons.
Sure thing. You can find all of Jeff's writings and upcoming episodes at www.bmovieenema.com. You can follow the page at Facebook and Twitter and check out episodes on YouTube. If you have a Roku, get OtherWorlds TV and check him out along with all the other hosts that appear there on weekends.
All right, thanks, Nurse. Now, if you like what we do here with B-Movie Enema, as Nurse Disembodied said, you can still go over to the website and see new articles each Friday. But come September, we'll have a second season of the show. So I guess it's time to close the old movie poop shoot and go on a bit of a hiatus, maybe a little bit of a vacation. I think it's time for Nurse Disembodied and I to just take a little bit of a break. So yeah. Until next time, everyone, say your prayers and don't get possessed by any sex demons.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was great. Was that good for you, Nurse? Yeah, I think it was pretty fine. I mean, so, you ever get possessed by any sex demons? You know, like foaming at the mouth and whipping priests and shit? I could see you doing that. You're a little bit of a freak, you know that? Yeah, shit. Oh shit, we're still filming. Fuck.